when you plant a tree, they say dig a $100 hole for a $50 tree. So the hole should be at least twice as wide as this root ball right here. So the roots grow out from the sides and they get all their nutrients about 6 inches to a foot underground. Some trees get a taproot to hold it in place, many don't. So, tree bags, we're a believer in tree bags. I will not buy a tree that's grown in a plastic pot because the roots circulate around, and if you don't break them apart, they'll choke each other and kill the tree. Now this bag is tearing. I'll take this and loosen the roots. So they're not wrapping around. One of the biggest mistakes tree planters make is putting it in too deep. So I'll set it in here. Look at how right now that it looks like it's about 3 inches too deep. So we'll need a few shovels full of dirt. Back it down. I think I got 3 inches in there.
Yeah.
You do. A little more. Tree board.
Yeah, just tiny one.
A little more.
How's that look for straight? Up and down each
It's
angle?
going that way.
This way a little more?
No, this way.
Oh, that way.
There you go.
Out
There you
there?
go.
Okay, now you can see it's higher. You want this flare to be at least an inch higher than the ground level. What do you think? Looks good?
It's good.
Zoom in.
And here's where you kind of want to fill in a little bit to make sure that it's stable. That still looks straight up and down from each angle.
One thing I forgot, if you use
Like that?
postal auger or some kind of auger, you should loosen these sides because they get, you don't want your tree roots to struggle going out.
And it's preferable not to put broken grass in it. You can turn it upside down and put it around the tree on the outside, but you don't want to put it in here with the roots. So. And you don't want it packed, but you do want it firm. We don't want the tree to settle down, and after time, if it's too loose a soil, you get air, and you don't want too much oxygen at the root, and you also don't want that ball to settle, so then it goes deeper than what the root flare is. So we're trying to get it lined up pretty straight, and the bottom of it first, to make sure that's the case, and then firm it down. If there are big clots, you can just loosen those up a little. This soil is primarily clay. It's not the best soil. You can see the difference with the organic matter where you got better soil. So if you are planting a tree and you're using clay like this, it's helpful to amend the soil and put a little better quality around the tree. But we didn't get that done on this one.
Are we forgetting anything, people? Anybody got a rake handy?
Yep. Right behind you.
We like to use the rake to clean up the dirt that's been brought out of the hole so that the grass around it can go back. And then we'll show you what we do with any excess dirt here in a minute. Careful with your tools, or as you're using a shovel or whatever you're using to measure the depth. Try to keep your things back out of the way as you're working to avoid any potential accident.
You want the dirt to be away from what we call the flare, where the trunk meets the original root system.
This tree pump water here, it's going to disperse and run around to wherever water will run, the lowest point. So we're going to put a dike, a built-up area, just a foot and a half outside of the distance from the tree. And I'm taking some of these lumps of sod and turning them upside down so they will die, and putting them, rather than just throw it away, it'll decompose, but putting them in the outside edge as part of that diking. Some mulch that will help to hold the moisture down to the ground, and it will keep some of the vegetation. It's pretty tough to keep vegetation from growing around it, but this at least slows it down. It keeps the sun from baking it. That allows it to stay a little moist, and when the water truck from the city comes out and waters it, it'll hold some of the water there better, so they're more efficient. And it's just regular mulch, ground up tree limbs and branches. When you mulch, you don't want it more than 4 inches at the most deep, because if you have it too deep, the roots start growing into the mulch rather than growing down into the ground. So keep the mulch away from the flare and bring it out gradually to about 3 inches. And then you can put it out to the degree that you want. In this case, we're also going to put wire cages around, because we live in Bellevue and we all know what the deer do. And they just love these young trees. And then we can put probably some more mulch around. But as Tom said, you want that area, you'll probably get some vegetation growing in there, but you don't want to hold the moisture against the base of the tree. So you want that open.
Tree roots will grow into that mulch, and when it gets dry, they'll die or get a disease and send it up into the tree. There isn't a magic number necessarily, but we cut these wires 18 feet, and that gives enough room so that the branches can grow and not grow into the wire. If they start growing into the wire, then they're going to be a problem for the tree. Yeah, here's these wires. And we cut the long ends on one side of the wire so that it's easier to bend them around, to link them in and hold it. But eventually this will come off, so you don't want to do too heavy of a securing of it.
And on a couple of these trees, we will stake them. We'll wrap around the tree a softer material and wire it out. But this one is standing good on its own. And with this protection, if you don't have a real big tree, it's better not to stake them because the stake does rub and it does do some wear on the tree. So if you have a good tree and it's small, this is about an ideal size for planting, or a little smaller. People think they need real big trees because they grow faster or will grow, but the root is really the heart, and that's going to start growing, and more attention will go into the root with the smaller tree. So this one is pretty set, but we have the cage and we need something to hold it.
Eventually we'll have to look at this top and choose something that will be the leader going straight up. That tree right there looks like it's trying to get 2 leaders. So I'm going to prune it a little bit.
Tom, you want to demonstrate what you're talking about, 2 leaders?
Wants to go straight up in the air. Ideal tree has 1 leader that goes up, and everything is supposed to branch out from there. Therefore, I'm going to choose that one to be the leader. So I'm going to take this one. When you do that, it sends a message to the main one. Oh, I still have one going up there. It sends a message up to the main one. And the leader will grow faster when you do that pruning. I chose this one right here. And so the one going up to the north will be the leader after I turn the one that's going to the west. Tall guy always wins.
And when we put the wire in the cage, the predominant winds in this area go north and south. In the summer, they're blowing up from the south, and in the winter, they're primarily blowing from the north. So we tend to put the support or any stakes, any ties to the tree on the north and on the south. You can vary them a little to the east and to the west because oftentimes that's the direction of the wind. That just gives a little more stability to the staking or to the tree tied. And in this case, I probably shouldn't have tied the ends together before I put the stake in, because we'll put the stake in and then Tom and I will probably just lift it up. This one shouldn't be too hard, and put it on the
Inside.
inside. Well, no, leave it out there. We'll just lift it. This, if you haven't had your Wheaties this morning, you can use them in this guy. with the extra lengths that we have on the wire, pull those around to one of the stakes and then just wrap a couple around the T-post. Careful not to have them come out, so if somebody walks by they don't get scraped or injured by it. And then you can just kind of straighten it up, and after that you can take the rest of your mulch and wherever the wire is, just make sure the mulch is a few inches out from the wire. So when they mow, they can mow around it and the grass will be at least a little bit slowed down from growing into it.